Elise Wilson is the leader of Stockport Council and a very, very, very busy lady at the moment, as you can imagine, with her work with the Greater Manchester Combined Authority as well. So Elise is pushed for time. So Elise, can I just go straight over to you? Could you give the group just an update on what the current situation is in Stockport, what your priorities are, and what you think, where you think we're going in this whole pandemic feel?
Yeah, I can try. So Stockport, the infection rate in Stockport, I don't know if you've noticed, is actually starting, dare I say, fingers crossed, starting to tip down a bit. So we're looking at we're relatively positive place. I mean, I'm saying that it's in the current climate. So we're seeing a relatively positive move on that. We know that for government's decisions about what the future looks like, it isn't going to be enough just to consider what the infection rate is. They want to know what the impact is on the NHS and where how hospitals are managing, and Stockport's health system, if you like, is part of the Greater Manchester health system. So they're not going to just look at Stockport's like Stepping Hill Hospital and go, right, what's happening in Stepping Hill? They'll look at the health system as a whole across the whole of Greater Manchester. So I think it's important to kind of start there, because we see the government, and when we hear them talking a lot, it's all framed in terms of public health and how we're keeping people healthy and well and safe from COVID, and how we're limiting the impact on the NHS. So I think Stockport is relatively well placed, and we do seem to be looking at a downward trend now, which is good news. In terms of Stockport, I mean, the thing about Stockport was, weren't we doing amazing and then COVID hit? Like, I felt like Stockport had we had big ambition, we were doing stuff, we were seeing real change, real investment into the borough coming, not just with the Mayoral Development Corporation, but into the town centre. Mersey Way was just, doing better and better, and we were seeing increased footfall, and everything was looking really positive till COVID came. And I think, for me, however, it's worth us holding on a little bit to that, because I still think, and I still remain incredibly ambitious for Stockport, and the future, if we're going to be as successful as we can in the future going forward, it's a matter of creating that confidence and maintaining that ambition. I think, certainly as a council leader, I want you to know that I remain committed to that I think it's going to be really important for businesses that the council continues to drive forward on those ambitions and helping that, setting you up to succeed, really. I suppose specifically around what the council's doing, obviously many of you will know about the money that the government's making available. The details are always the tricky bit, and announcements were made about money for rateable value, businesses with rateable values. Details have only recently come through, as has the money, but payments are already being started to be made on that, so that we can get the money out. I'm a business owner in Stockport. My husband and I run a small business in Stockport. We know, and I completely understand, how important it is that the money gets to you. If you need that, if you're eligible for that money, you absolutely need that money right now, and any dilly-dallying on that could cost you more than just a few quid. So the commitment is absolutely there, and the team is ready to go, and in fact payments are already going out, and that will carry on. You will probably don't need me to talk about the original negotiations around Tier 3 that we did with Andy Burnham. So together with Andy Burnham and the other leaders, we had the whole standoff over Tier 3 originally, and the £60 million that in the end we weren't getting and now we are getting is a discretionary amount, and we'll get our proportion of that as decided by the government, and what we're working through now is a criteria. What we learned in the first round of business rate money, so the first time we went into lockdown, there was this business rate money, and you got this money like that. What we learned is there's a lot of people that fell through the gaps. There was all these spaces in between, businesses that had a shared space, or the rateable value was paid to the landlord. You know, there was a space where the self-employed, there's a real difficulty there. And we know that we want to be able to try and find a way where we can and where the government allows us to do so, because there is still a criteria. Despite it being discretionary, it isn't completely discretionary. We won't be able to do exactly what we want with it, but fitting in with that is to try and fill those gaps as best we can, and we want to do that again as quickly as we can to make sure that we can get money out as fast as we can. So those are some of the things that I guess as a council specifically we're doing. But I would say one of the things that I think has been the most heartwarming, actually, but what didn't surprise me as a business owner in Stockport, knowing my network, knowing the people that my supply chains, the people around me, was how businesses came together in Stockport, and how Marketing Stockport, is part of that. Has been a real really team player in it, and we've seen businesses of Stockport come together and really look out for each other, bounce ideas off each other, come up with other ideas, support each other, put things in place. And I know, and there's been like an official group, if you like, working with the council, but I've seen across Stockport time and time again businesses that a few months ago would be just direct competition with each other, actually going, we've all just got to get through this. Like let's just find a way through, and that's been really quite special. I don't know if other people, I know that when I speak to other leaders, they've not done that, they've not seen quite the same coming together of the businesses in that way with the council to really try and find a way through. And I'm really pleased about how we've been able to do that and work with others to make that happen, because the council, the council's the council. The council's not a business. They're not business owners. They don't know. They try. They come from a good place. They want to do something that's right, that's going to have an impact, that's going to help. But they're not you, and they're not going to know that. And so it's only with working with other people to genuinely understand what it is that's in the art of the possible and what we can do that's going to make a significant difference. And then just to kind of move back into Greater Manchester. So I sit on the Greater Manchester Local Enterprise Partnership Board. And actually, I think, and I don't know if it's official yet, but I think I'm the vice chair now. So the co-chairs of the LEP are Lou Cordwell and Mo Assap, but I'm going to become the vice chair. And there's a significant amount of kind of drive and real determination that we put Greater Manchester, keep Greater Manchester on the map, keep it focused on where we need to go, making sure that we're a voice to government, but also supporting Greater Manchester businesses to continue to flourish, and where there is opportunity in this crisis, to be able to really make the most of that opportunity so that they come out of the other end. And later on today, there is a launch event for the Greater Manchester economic proposition, the Greater Manchester economic proposition. It's a long title, but you get what I'm saying. And that's going to be launched later on. I think it's at 11 o'clock today. There's a webinar about how we're going to look at building a Greater Manchester to build a Greater Britain, and the role that Greater Manchester can play, not just in Greater Manchester, not even just in the north, but actually as part of UK PLC. So I think that's quite exciting stuff, and that remains a bold ambition for the whole of Greater Manchester. And we've seen again across Greater Manchester, Greater Manchester, where again businesses came together to go, do you know what, we can't, throughout when the negotiations fell apart with government, there was a £5 million gap, and the Greater Manchester businesses came together and go, for the sake of £5 million, we're going to support each other, and that was really again a very similar situation to what we know here in Stockport, but on a Greater Manchester scale. and something I think that really stands Greater Manchester out as different to other places. So Stockport for me has to continue to be a key part or a key component of what's going on in Greater Manchester. It's about not just, you know, being in the room, but actually being at the front of that and really being promoting what we've got, what we're doing and where we're going, and remaining consistently ambitious on that and creating confidence. For me, what the biggest thing, and I'll just get a little bit like personal, and then I'll take some questions. But my husband says to me, "Oh, this is our business, and we're going through the same things you are all going through, wondering what the hell we're going to be doing next week and next month and whatever. And should we do this? And should we invest in that? And how are we going to do that?" And I'm like, "Well, we're just going to have to go for it, or actually we'll hold off on that, or we'll do." And those are the conversations we're having like every single day about the stuff that we've got to do and whether or not we can do it and what are we going to do for Christmas and you know, are we going to be, you know, is it going to be open? And I think my absolute first and foremost priority right now has to be what's going to happen on the 2nd of December. So lockdown ends on the 2nd of December. We know that there are a significant number of businesses whose profit, if you like, whose turnover profit, whose success lies on a successful, you know, rests in a successful Christmas. Very, very many businesses, and they are currently closed, a lot of them. So what happens on the 2nd of December is going to be absolutely crucial, and what tier we're going to go in. It's my understanding that the government is going to dictate. It's going to say, this is where you are. Current thinking is that maybe they're going to consider Greater Manchester as an entire city region. So we'll see. At this minute, none of this is confirmed. It's just the conversation that seems to be happening at the minute. My worry is that if our infection rate comes quite far down and we've been quite successful throughout this lockdown, and other parts haven't managed to see the same turnaround. I don't want Stockport to be put at a disadvantage because they're having to have restrictions that are higher than maybe other parts of the country are, simply because we're part of Greater Manchester. That said, I am also acutely aware that Stepping Hill and the NHS do not live in isolation in Stockport, and that without the city region system in place, we would be in real difficulties as the NHS. So it'll be getting that balance right and understanding what it is that we're allowed to do and where we're going. But my big push would be to allow to get things up and running and allow businesses to function, on the basis that what we need from government, what we really need is that, but we also really need a bit of a plan to go forward. What are you going to do now for the next 4 months or the next 6 months, or even, in all honesty, the next 8 weeks will do me. Like, if you can give me a plan to what the government's actually planning to do forward. Because if you say open now, but then maybe we might have to have a lockdown in January, or we might have to, well, tell me now, because if you tell me now, I have a chance of organising myself, and it makes it so much easier as a business, because businesses can be really agile, but they can't if they're not, like, they've got no idea what's coming. Just a bit of a heads up, but at the very least would be a good thing. So right, I'm going to stop because I've rambled on a lot, but I'm happy to take some questions, Helen. Thank you.
What you've done, Elise, on there is actually, you've probably answered an awful lot of questions, so thank you very much for that. But one thing I did want to ask you is, as a business community, obviously Marketing Stockport has had that, I've always called it a very selfless attitude. Everybody does work together. It doesn't matter what industry or what sector they're in. Everybody does pull together. And I think that, I agree with you, I think that is quite unique to Stockport. But what can the business community do to help you in your quest to make sure that Stockport gets the best deal in all this? Because obviously, as I say, you know, there are districts in Greater Manchester, areas in Greater Manchester where cases are a heck of a lot higher than they are in Stockport, and I get that we are part of Greater Manchester, but we're also a borough in our own right. What support can the business community do to help you to get the best out of it for Stockport?
So for me, one of the important words, I think, is COVID safe or COVID secure, and they are I think somewhere there the answer lies in those words. And what we see a lot of is a very strong and understandably completely supported, but a really strong health evidence base as to why certain things have to be done, because we need to keep people healthy and well. And that's right. But what we don't, and I don't seem to have as much evidence on, is how safe places are, what investment have you. I know we've put masses of money into making our business COVID safe, and helping protect our staff. And how do we make the case then that actually we can function, we can be open, we can do business, and we can do it and keep people safe? And how are we making the case for that? So I think there's something around getting that evidence together. And I know that there's, oh no, I'm going to get it wrong. I think it's called City United. A Greater Manchester businesses coming together, looking at a bit of some of that information around how we get the data together to support the arguments that say we can be COVID secure, and COVID secure or COVID safe means COVID safe. I think there's something in that space around, if you're doing that and you have some data or information about how you can, how we can do that, then I think that's useful. And certainly would say around feeding the information back. I know through, say for example, Stockport, Marketing Stockport is part of this group of businesses that talk and meet with my cabinet member, with my staff at the council. I try and get to these meetings when I can, and I think it's chaired by Steve Oliver, and I think if we can feed this information in, it helps me able to articulate the argument that actually you do not need to close these businesses. We can function with the right support, and we can get up and running and keep things moving. So I'd say keep involved and keep making the case. I'd also say I don't like the argument that people are making around, well, it's health or the economy. For me, they're interlinked and they're together. And I think sometimes the voice of business that says we want to keep people safe, actually, we don't want you all getting COVID and dying. We actually want you. We want to do what's right to keep people healthy and well. But we also know that being healthy and well, a basic of that is having a job. Have a job, put a roof over your head, and have a friend. Basic things to keeping people healthy and well. The mental health crisis, and I really worry about that, not just for generally, but business owners, people who work in industries as self-employed, that kind of thing. The pressure and stress that people are under. So I'd say making the case for healthy and well that's wider than just protecting from COVID, albeit making the case that we all want to be protecting people from COVID. Nobody wants to see people poorly. So I think those were my two things at the minute, and really to just to hold on, I guess, because I think we will eventually, things will change. Nothing's in permanence, is it? And we will see another side through, and if we can keep faith and hold on. I know it's really hard, money, the stress of it all, but knowing that you're not on your own as well, I think that's important.
Okay, thanks very much, Elise. We are aware that you're pushed for time, but does anybody have a sort of a pressing question that they'd like to put to Elise? If so, could you just pop your hand up, please? Richard, can you see anyone? No? Okay, I'll just finally finish off then, Elise, just changing the subject slightly, but it is still very important to Greater Manchester, is just to say that I did watch the vote last night, and I was very pleased to see that you did actually get your deferment in terms of the Greater Manchester Spatial Framework. How important is that for Stockport going forward? The
Greater Manchester Spatial Framework, so the GMSF, as we've abbreviated it to, is a really important document. it's important for Stockport, it's important for Greater Manchester. So just to go back slightly, the local industrial strategy, which was part of the Devo deal we did with government, and it talks about how we're going to create future growth for Greater Manchester over the next few years. And it's about how the government giving us money and what we're going to do with that, and how we're going to deliver that growth. Well, the GMSF is basically the other side of that coin. In order to deliver sectors like green and digital and things like that, then we're going to need space. We're going to need to allocate space where businesses can grow to or start up in these new areas, in this new frontier sector, or move into. So the GMSF is about allocating space for businesses so that we can attract businesses, or businesses that are already in Greater Manchester can expand, and we can attract other businesses into Greater Manchester. And so that we're delivering the jobs and we're delivering that future growth. It also is about homes. So of course, if we're having more business, more people working here, we need homes for people to live in. So it's about allocating space to be able to put homes for people. And then obviously it's about the environment and how we protect the environment. It is a really complex document. It has been going on for a long time. So this has been around for 6 years, since 2014 when work started on this process. And last night there was tabled the Greater Manchester Spatial Framework 2020, which is the latest iteration of the GMSF. And it was deferred at I requested that the council adjourn the meeting so that we can continue working on that, because at the minute it's not where we need it for Stockport. So when Greater Manchester agreed the spatial framework, Andy Burnham and I made a public statement saying that if there were councillors that were unable to support the spatial framework, that they should contact us to try and see if we can find a route through. And the Conservative group in Stockport and the independent ratepayers in Stockport both contacted us independently from each other with some real constructive engagement and some ideas as to what they thought, because currently at the format it wasn't what they felt was right for the people they represent. So we're at the stage now where after this I'm off to do some more meetings about the GMSF to make sure we can see what we can do and what's in the art of the possible. This isn't just important for Stockport, it's important for the whole city region. It comes back to what I was saying earlier about the LEPS economic proposition. What we're trying to achieve here isn't just to the benefit of Stockport, it's the benefit of the whole city region. With the whole city region thriving and we're part of that, then that's right for us. It's jobs for us. We know in Stockport, Sainsbury's have announced its closure on Warren Street. That's 80 jobs there. We know that there are other businesses that are making redundancies or announcing closures. And so the importance of having new space to attract the new frontier sectors into Stockport to deliver those jobs is going to be absolutely crucial. And for Stockport, that means an industrial estate on the Bredbury site. And we're looking at expanding that industrial estate to better be able to accommodate, I think it's the kind of warehousing, logistics, and also advanced manufacturing. So it's how we're looking to Stockport, how we're looking as Greater Manchester to setting up those new businesses and the new way forward and the homes that we're going to need for people. The government has set the housing target. It isn't our housing target. I've not come up with it. We as council haven't, even Greater Manchester hasn't. The government has set the target and said this is how many homes you need to deliver. And that's politically that's contended, but we are where we are. It hasn't been our decision to do that, and so we've got to meet the target that's been set to us for, it's not a target, but the amount that's been set for us, and we've got to find a way of meeting that. And by working with Greater Manchester, we're able to offset some of that. So it's in excess of 18,000 homes that are needed in Stockport as per the government, and we are going to be only delivering about 13,000 of those, with the remaining nearly 5,000 than being absorbed in other parts of Greater Manchester. And so for us, that means we don't have to build on as much greenbelt. If we don't have the spatial framework, we are going to be tied to delivering all the homes ourselves in Stockport. That means we're going to have to look at other sites in Stockport. And for me, that's the worry, is that that's really just a greenbelt option, because at the moment, most of the housing is being delivered in the urban area, so in built up areas, with the MDC taking the lion's share of that. And what's going to happen to Town Centre West, so that bit of Stockport Town Centre, you know, Edgeley, that area there where that goes from basically the pyramid all the way up to the college, and the football stadium, so what Edgeley Park, so whatever, that space there is going to be completely different in just a few years' time, and that's where we're probably going to see the most significant change happening. But that on its own is not going to be enough. So that's where we're at. Hopefully we'll be able to do something, and we'll be able to get it right for Stockport, and members across the chamber will see that we can get it right. And then I'm looking to bring that back at some point towards the beginning of December. I've not been able to set a date yet for that, but that's the plan, is to try and get a decision done by the beginning of December, which would mean then it goes out to formal consultation, public get to have their say on it, and we take those consultation responses along with the plan and we submit it to government, who then get to basically get their pen out and decide, is this right for what they think, and they get their input on that, and they also test whether or not it's robust, it's sound, it meets legislation, and it isn't, and it is going to deliver what they say they want it to deliver, and then they send it back to us with a view for us adopting it potentially around 2022. So masses of work over years and years and years, but a really important document nonetheless.
Great, Elise.